Everywhere, GBS.
Good evening and welcome to the Insight Tonight. My name is Eugene Ochieng Kwach, and of course this is where you get credible information about issues that concern you, where we get to bring different stakeholders and thought leaders on this biggest conversation on the nation, as we have intentional and deliberate conversation just meant for you to get to deeply understand issues critically. And of course it helps you to understand issues otherwise through the leaders and that we bring here, of course. And tonight we are bringing two very critical people. And that is, my first guest is Kevin Olyanga. Kevin Olyanga is the Secretary General for Conservative Roundtable. And thank you so much, Sir Kevin Olyanga, for joining us for this big conversation. And of course, we also have Madam Waringa, who's also the president. Yeah, so Waringa, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation again. We are so grateful and honored to have you for this great conversation. But of course, the conversation today, we will delve into three major issues. And the first one is on the police reforms that actually were handed over by the CJ Emeritus, that is Maraga. He actually handed over the task force report to the president. We also get to delve deeply into that, even as we also get to look at the audit by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, which sought to establish ethnic diversity compliance in counties, which actually established that the Kalenjin community is at the top with almost 17%, 0.77, if I'm not wrong. And we also have the Kikuyu community and then also the Luo community. So we'll also get to delve deeply into those figures and get to determine what they actually portend. And of course, we also get to delve into the issues, other issues, like the fuel issues, which of course has brought out mixed reactions from many Kenyans. And thank you so much for joining us for this conversation from home. My name is Eugene Ochieng again. And of course, 2144 is our SMS line at Dr. Kwach at GBS TV Africa, at GBS TV Africa. That is where you also get to converse with us at all social media platforms. Let us begin this conversation. And let me start with you, Mr. Olyanga. We talk about the proposal on the increase of, in the proposal of the CJ's proposal, there's a 40% increase of the salaries. And my first question about this particular proposal, even as you get to look at other propositions, what does it portend? And more particularly when we understand our economic infrastructure as it stands.
So thank you so much for the opportunity. And I think I'll start answering your question by saying that, number one, this country has done a lot of audits in terms of workplace environment, more so the issue to do with our uniformed servicemen, how they are paid, and issues to do with their health care, issues to do with insurance, life cover to be specific, because most of them do a dangerous job. And remember, they are also parents, they are fathers and mothers in this country. And my answer is simple, that we are playing cheap politics with people's life, and more so to do with our uniformed servicemen. Because for the past, I can tell you for sure, for the past 10 years, our servicemen have been earning negative salaries. Negative salary in a sense that majority of them earn below the gross salary of 60,000. We are in a country where that 60,000 after taxation, you get a net of around 40,000. This is in disregard to the fact that most of them live in urban areas where they pay rent. Majority of them are not housed by the government. Actually, we have shortage of houses for policemen in this country, men and women. So they pay rent. They also have children they're taking to school. So the issue of corruption in the police service will never end as long as we don't house them, because we pay them less money, as long as we don't house them, as long as we don't give them proper Medicare, that is the health care to cover them and their family, and as long as they don't feel protected with things like life insurance cover, which means if they were to lose their life, then at least they know their family will be taken care of. So with those three factors that I've mentioned, we are still undervalue our police service. And the 40% that is being recommended is a drop in the ocean, considering that those three factors have not been handled. So to me, if you ask me, before we talk about salary increment for police service, first we must make sure that they have a life insurance cover. Second, police service or policemen and women should have a house paid by the government. I don't understand a country where our police should be paying rent, yet they are providing service for us, just like the military. Sorry for that. You get military are housed, our police are not housed, and that is very unfair. Number three, like I said, they should be given a proper Medicare that can cover their children. We have a situation where a police officer is working at night and maybe the child is sick or the wife. How do that police officer handle that issue? Do they vacate their position where they are working so that they can go and sort their family? How do we handle that issue? And as long as we don't handle those, even the 40%, which I know will not be implemented fully, which I know will be avoided by this current regime, will not be enough. So to me, that is my response.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Olianga, for that. And Madam Waringa,
yes,
Ambassador, let me call you Ambassador Waringa.
that's better. Yeah.
There's the issue of the task force, actually, that was constituted by the president, which was actually led by the president of the Supreme Court, emeritus, that is CJ Maraga. I wonder what you think about the propositions, but one particular one is about the 40% increment in the salaries, and understanding how we are, because I believe that as we are facing an economic turmoil. We are not quite good placed. And even if you speak about increasing the funds, increasing the salaries of these people, do we have that money as it stands? And generally, what would be the rationale of increasing the salaries?
Okay, beautiful. I would like to say that the police force in itself, in terms of infrastructure capacities, in terms of delivery of their service, in terms of housing, in terms of capacity development, one, away from the economic crisis of the country, I must say that this is long overdue. I salute the former Excellency President of the Judiciary for the report. However, the report is coming in a time when Kenya is suffering an economic crisis. Though recently we had from the public service, other members of the public service who enjoyed probably salary increment, but which was spread over time. But now this report is coming at a time when we are suffering economic regression. So what is the way forward? The way forward would be, one, we must all agree as Kenyans that the police force welfare towards performance is long overdue. Because this is actually one of the institutions that if corruption is zero rated in the police force, let me tell you, even in other agencies of the public service, corruption will be a done deal. But as long as we have corruption within the police force, then even other agencies of the public service will suffer the same. So the report is good and timely and helping us now move towards, like what my brother has just said. We cannot have some like the what do you call them? An arm of our service providers are housed by the government, while others, like the police, are renting houses. So with that, you find that there is a gap. And the sooner we move to streamline the police service, the better. But also, As we streamline the infrastructure, that is the salary, the 40% increment, as we still streamline the infrastructure of housing them, as we still move towards capacity development and giving them a conducive environment for working, we must also work on their moral standing, because the police force is a unit of government that has been known for all the wrong reasons.
Okay.
Why? Corruption.
Okay.
From the top, most office, to the police who is on the road.
Okay.
The day that we shall drive along our roads and we are not giving bribes to this police force, neither are they asking bribes, like from our matatu industry, we shall then have resolved the police force issues. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Olenga, you have something to add, but before you add
yeah.
on it, you both of you are talking about corruption as a menace, and it's quite because actually that is actually what some of the things that were identified by the task force. Where the task force identified inefficient leadership, also structural weakness, corruption, and lack of funding as the major issues and the menace to now the police service. Now, the question will actually be, because we need to mitigate these issues, we need to find a way through which we can find measures to these challenges. And maybe, Olenga, you can just tell us that how can we bring in accountability within these institutions? Can it just be the panacea? When you talk about the panacea to this particular issue, is it only adding them salary so that they do not take bribes? Is that then, will it mean that we will now have an efficient leadership? We will have then a more powerful structure in the police system? Is adding them a salary the panacea to this issue and the menace that the police service is facing?
To answer you to that directly, adding them salary will not solve the corruption issue, and I want to be very straight. And we don't. It's like what we are trying to do is like create something which is bad, then basically blame the outcome of that thing which is bad. For a long time since independence, we've been doing what wale wabeberu, our colonizer, were doing. Basically going to the stadium, looking at who is taller than the other, who has all their teeth not interfered with, who has, I don't know, big chest than the other. And you know, those are not qualification of being a policeman or policewoman. I believe we need to start doing things differently. Number one, there are people who are born in this country who have done degrees, who have done diplomas, people who are well educated, people who are brought up well from where they are coming from in their homes, and their dream is just to be a policeman or a policewoman. These people are not being given an opportunity. What is happening today in our country, and I don't want to shy away from it, since 2000, for example, since the year 2000, we've been employing police based on them running in the stadium somewhere. And a lot of those running issues and checking who is taller has ended up with people being bribed, or the policemen who are recruiting being bribed so that somebody can be hired as a policeman or a policewoman. Now the problem is, those who have money, who have been bribing to make their brothers and sisters policemen or policewomen, are basically buying this job because they are taking care of their sibling from thuggery. Most of them are thugs. Who you fear that one day my brother will be killed because he's a thug, so let me buy for them a job. Where is the easiest place to buy a job? Police service. So you bribe because he's tall.
So you take a thug to become a police.
To become a police. And you expect this person to be different. You expect this person to be ethical. I think number one, let's change the way we recruit police men and women in this country. Let's have them apply to be a police officer. Let's have a recruitment agency, whether independent or government, to look at the application. Let's take up, it's high time we stop taking people with D- as policemen, when we have people with diplomas and degrees in this country who do not have job. Some of them who have studied good courses like human resource management, psychology, forensic science. We have a lot of young people educated who can be better police. That's how you stop corruption. Recruit better human resource. Recruit better people to become police. Stop taking young people to run in the field as a sign of showing who can be a police person. Running, anybody can run as long as you give them training. My second issue, as we add salary, the salary, today, if you take 40% of 60,000, that should be around 18,000 if I'm not wrong. Plus or minus, we are talking about 75,000 with the rate of inflation currently, with the rate or the skyrocketing cost of living, the cost of rent, the cost of Medicare or healthcare for that matter, and the cost of insurance, because this person is doing a dangerous job. There is no value we are adding. And to me, I said, instead of considering adding salary, let's consider the first three issues that I've mentioned. Housing the police, giving them better health care. I know there's discussion around the police service in terms of health care. And the third one is that let's give them life insurance cover so that it can give them comfort when they are going outside there to deal with the dangerous criminal they're dealing with. And on that, my sisters has added something to do with the economic hard time. I don't believe in that. What we are lacking in our country is priorities. Today we are talking about our parliament is approving for deployment of police service to Haiti. Haitis are our brothers, they are black. And
we're going to delve into that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, so
Yes, I wanted to add on that,
Yes.
that police service are also state officers. And for state officers in the Republic of Kenya to join the public service, they have all to meet Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya. So I don't know to what extent this report, the Maragas report, looked into Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and also sustainability of upholding Chapter 6 in their duty, in their line of duty. Because if we get state officers, that is the police officers, who we recruit based on values, based on character, integrity, responsibility, and accountability, and then we maintain the same during their service, then I'm sure that we are going to transform the service. But I think as much as we are talking about 40% increment, what about now the character? What about the Chapter 6, which is totally finished? It is totally deteriorated in the police service. Because when you see a police service stopping a policeman, stopping a matatu and taking 50 shillings, what does that tell you? That Chapter 6 is nowhere in his life of service. He doesn't think about character, doesn't think about values, integrity. That does not apply in his line of duty. So I think first and foremost, even as we talk about prioritization and as we talk about salaries, do you know there is a way you can add, there is a way that we can, yes, give the 40%, but matters of character, matters of integrity still will be challenged. We'll still have a capacity gap. Okay. So I think the first and foremost, and Justice Maraga has been a judge or a Chief Justice of Integrity. If he is able to still anchor this and as an annex to the report, that we need to uphold Chapter 6 in all police recruitment services or in all police recruitment activities. Away from the physical, what my brother is saying, the learning, the what, the hate and everything, the qualifications. What about Chapter 6? And actually, not only police service, this is a total revolution that we must bring into government in the Republic of Kenya. Actually, as we talk right now, there should be a special, very special program, which I thought could have been anchored in the report, that we need a total mindset revolution in the police service.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You guys are mentioning very critical issues, but one of them that you had actually mentioned was an institutionalized corruption, where it is not just about the junior officers, from what I get to understand, but it begins from the senior even to the juniors. So if that is the case, because you guys are talking about recruitment, they do not recruit senior officers. They recruit the junior officers. And yet the corruption begins at the helm. So how are we going to ensure that this corruption that begins at the helm, because we have had cases of whereby those at the helm want a certain amount of money from the juniors. And so it goes that way even to the police now meeting the conductors and the turn boys. And that is where the money is taken. And then it goes to the helm. So actually, what is the true panacea to this? When we talk about this institutionalized corruption, because it is not just in the junior officers, so we cannot talk about just recruitment. But even if we talk about recruitment, then what else can be done to ensure that also the mindset, as you've mentioned, of the other officers up there is also in a way that they're ready for this change? Because people will believe that this mindset training is only for those junior officers or other people who are the officers who may be having family issues or depression or mental issues as such. But there's an issue here, a menace and corruption. But this is not just in police service alone, in other institutions. So generally, what is a perfect panacea to it? Let me start with Olianga.
I believe one thing that is permanent in this world is change. And I also believe that nobody is immune to change. Anybody can change. And I'll give you an example of how what you are saying was ended in other countries. You know, we must use best practice in other countries to apply in our country. In US in 1968, there was rampant corruption within the police service. So this thing is not new in our country. And in any modern economy, like the Kenya is now becoming a middle-income economy, we need now to, what I can say, structure well our national intelligence. We cannot survive with one house called the NIS, National Intelligence Service. We must now independently separate domestic intelligence and foreign intelligence. Currently, National Intelligence Service has only domestic, or what we call domestic intelligence as a department, and foreign intelligence as a department. We need a separate organization for domestic intelligence and for foreign intelligence. And for domestic, I'll give an example. For example, FBI in US is a domestic intelligence with a law enforcement role. I'll give another example. When you go to Britain, we have MI5, which is a domestic intelligence in the United Kingdom with a law enforcement role. So Kenya, we also need a domestic intelligence with a law enforcement role. What is the importance of national intelligence, a domestic independent national intelligence? Their work will be, number one, to deal with organized crime. Today, for example, you are talking about corruption within the police service. These are the people who can investigate that and apprehend those senior police officers and even junior. Because now, we've left the job to anti-corruption, ethics and anti-corruption commission, an organization without teeth. And you expect the same police officers who are corrupt to be the one investigating whatever files that they're dealing with. So in short, you are asking a junior officer to go and arrest their boss for stealing money. That will never happen in any country. But if we can have a domestic intelligence, independent, which can have what you call a law enforcement role with the ability to investigate the corruption within the police service and the corruption within the government. I'll give another dangerous thing that is going on. Today, 40% of young people are suffering from digestive cancer or digestive disorders because of what we call pirated foodstuff, drugs. You heard President talking about pirated drugs or dangerous drugs in our market, pirated food, even Blue Band, even beers, even other alcohol that is sold in this country. 40% of them are fake. You get, these are organized crime that we need an intelligence body to deal with, because these are people who have the capacity and the training to investigate and to apprehend, if they're given the power to apprehend. We know some 4 years ago, there was that bill in the parliament. Members of parliament don't want to pass it because they fear a domestic intelligence with the law enforcement role will come for them because they are also corrupt. So that's where we need to go, and that is how we can sort that. Otherwise, allowing police to investigate themselves, that is that's child play, and we will never achieve anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay, very good.
I know you have something to say.
Yes.
But even as you talk about it,
Yeah.
I'm being informed that we need to take a very quick short break and then we are coming back.
Okay.
Is that okay with you? So to the bond before is our SMS line. Then at GBS TV Africa, you get to converse with us. We're taking a very quick short break, but we'll be right back.
Everywhere. GBS.
Hello guys, my name is Michael Uhuru, IYF Weekend Academy student. I was taking graphics and design, and this coming Saturday on 18th of November we are having a graduation. Karibuni nyi wote. Let's come, let's know what is happening on the ground right here at IYF Center. Karibuni.
Hello guys, I'm Marianne Washuka and I'm a member of the IYF Weekend Academy, and I was partaking beauty class and joyously announced that on the 18th November this month we are holding a ceremony, our graduation ceremony, and I kindly invite you also. Come all, feel welcome. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacqueline Omboy, a student at IYF Academy, and I used to undertake programming as a course, and now we've done our course and we are done, and now the graduation will be on the 18th of November. I want to invite you to IYF Center to support us and support the IYF program, which has been so helpful. A course that is so expensive has been made possible because of this institution. So you're most welcome. Come and enjoy as we progress with life. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Welcome to IYF Weekend Academy. My name is Teacher Philip, Weekend Academy Chinese class. I'm privileged to be part of the IYF Weekend Academy. Season 4 has been amazing. Since we started the season 4 months down the line, meeting students from different parts of the country, learning Chinese language, learning Chinese culture. This time we are coming to our 4th graduation on Saturday. That will be 18th of November. We welcome all of you to be part of our graduation as we look forward to the next season, that's season 5. Thank you so much. Welcome to IYF Weekend Academy.
Everywhere. GBS.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacqueline Omboy, a student at IYF Academy, and I used to undertake programming as a course, and now we've done our course and we are done, and now the graduation will be on the 18th of November. I want to invite you to IYF Center to support us and support the IYF program, which has been so helpful. A course that is so expensive has been made possible because of this institution. So you're most welcome. Come and enjoy as we progress with life. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Welcome to IYF Weekend Academy. My name is Teacher Philip, Weekend Academy Chinese class. I'm privileged to be part of the IYF Weekend Academy. Season 4 has been amazing. Since we started the season 4 months down the line, meeting students from different parts of the country, learning Chinese language, learning Chinese culture. This time we are coming to our 4th graduation on Saturday. That will be 18th of November. We welcome all of you to be part of our graduation as we look forward to the next season, that's season 5. Thank you so much. Welcome to IYF Weekend Academy.
Everywhere. GBS.
Thank Thank you so much and welcome to this broadcast again as we continue with this conversation around the politics and the people. And of course, as we continue this conversation, we are talking about the task force, the national task force actually that had given a report to the president. And one thing that is quite interesting is that the president had promised to adopt the report as it is and actually implement it. But even in implementing such issues, we've always seen issues. So we are wondering, bearing the tough economic conditions and how generally we look at our architecture in governance generally. Being a governance expert, what are these challenges that we are likely to even meet in the implementation stage of these particular issues that the task force has actually raised and even the report that they've given?
Okay, very well. I'll first of all start by addressing what key 3 interventions need to be undertaken while implementing the report. Number 1, that the increment of 40% does not necessarily give the police force a conducive working environment. That there is so much that is around within the police force that must be taken care of. Number 1, the upholding of Chapter 6 going forward from the highest authority to the lowest authority in the police force, from the Inspector General to the police force, to the lowest cadre of police. There has to be organized a way in which, from now going forward, that Chapter 6 of the Constitution will be part and parcel of the police delivery service. I hail the former CS Trade and the current CS for public service, when he said that when we, going forward, when he shall be recruiting every member of the public service, and mostly probably, I hope that he'll be touching also on the police force, that he remembered that those days when we used to have students, before joining university, they could go for discipline at the National Youth Service. And when they left the National Youth Service, National Youth Service, discipline was high. Character, integrity, values. And I believe that going forward also, that the National Youth Service will be able to prepare a new public service that will give a total moral revolution to the public service. So that's one thing that we can undertake. I know most of the police force never went through what usually people go through and are trained at the National Youth Service, which will build their character, will build their values and integrity issues. The other thing is that, we must wipe out corrupt officers. And recently, the head of public service, Mr. Kosgei, actually it was yesterday, I think, that he said that the Inspector General must move with speed. And the 67 officers who have been found not capable of moving forward in the police service because of corruption, going home. Therefore, he requested the Inspector General of Police to allow the 67 to go home. So we want to see action in such kind of an intervention, that the IG, if he seriously would like to clean up the police service, and actually adopt some of the provisions of the report towards a changed police service, the action he should take also will be to send the 67 home. The other thing, we must call for, number 3, we must call for interagency synergy towards now streamlining and wiping out corruption in the police service. We will not leave it to one agency only, but we will have the judiciary working closely with the DCI, with the DPP, with the EACC to clean up the police service. Because when, in fact, one thing, because I'm running for presidency, I met one very serious investor. The investor told me, Madam President, if you promise me that you are going to clean up the police service, then I'm going to support your presidency. Okay. I asked him why. He told me, because almost everything that revolves within the public service is anchored on the police force. Okay. That was very serious. I didn't know that actually cleaning up the police service, number 1, would contribute a great extent to clean up the police service. So we really need such interventions, even away from now executing the 40% salary increment. First of all, will be the moral revolution in the public service. And I think I have, I don't want to repeat, but I have just said that police service is not an exemption of Chapter 6.
Okay.
It must
Okay.
be
Okay.
part and parcel of what provision of Chapter 6 is.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Olenga, I would love us to move with speed on to the next issue, still on the police. And this is particularly when the parliament actually approved the deployment of police to Haiti. You had actually even mentioned and even talked about this. And of course, there are foreseeable challenges to this, even as it stands. But let us just start with that from where you see it, what will this actually even portend? What are the challenges that will be seen going forward for this particular approval for the police to go to Haiti for this particular mission?
To respond to that, first thing I have to say is that, like I said, Haitians are our brothers. These are African people who were taken to that corner of the world through slave trade. And where our brothers are suffering in any part of this world, we as Africans should stand with them. And I support the Ruto's administration in terms of trying to send support to Haiti. And it's something that is other African leaders should also do the same. My challenge in this deployment is the way it's being conducted or the way it's being done. Number one, police service has a CEO or what we call internal division that need to look into how this policeman or woman is going to be taken care of while he's outside the country. There are three issues that are not being discussed. I think we are just moving this thing very fast because of certain funding that we expect, which is very dangerous. It's like you're sending people to their death simply because you want to earn some money as an administration so that you can fill some gap. And to me, that is very dangerous. The first thing we need to consider is, number one, the scope of their work. What are our police going to do in Haiti? Because Haiti is a failed state. And as a failed state, meaning it doesn't have a functional government. So if it does not have a functional government, are our police going to fight the rebels? Because you cannot keep law and order in a country that has failed. You can only go there to fight the enemy. The enemy of that state are organized thugs, who but they have M16 guns and seriously armed to the teeth with even explosives. So will we not probably send our military men who are trained in what we call urban combat to assist in bringing order in that country before now we send the police service to maintain the law and order? Because the police are trained to maintain law and order. Police are not trained to go and fight thugs. You get? That is one thing that is not being discussed. The scope. What are they going to do in Haiti? Number two, how are we going to ensure that our policemen go to that environment and is able to do their job, considering that this is a country that does not speak English? They either speak French or their local dialect, which our policemen have not been trained. A lot of our policemen do not speak French. So the 1,000 or the sole number that they want to take, is there evidence that they have been taught some level of French to go and communicate? Because we'll end up a situation where a policeman or woman shoot another woman or a child in the head for begging for food, thinking that the person is aggressive, because of the language barrier. So language barrier is not being discussed here. Number three, and the final issue that is not being discussed, is what are the benefits, or what are some of the benefits we are giving these policemen who are leaving this country, so that they can feel that even if they are risking their life, they have a life cover, so that if they die abroad, their family will be taken care of. Are we giving them a life cover? That is not being discussed. So my advice to the Inspector General of Police and the President of Kenya is that let's not do things in a hurry because we want to impress some white men somewhere. I'm sorry to use that word. Because It is France, to be specific, and the US that interfered with the Haiti government for so many years that the country has failed. And it's the same US that deployed Marine and the Coast Guard who failed to bring law and order and withdrew them because of the apparent dangers that they were facing, but now telling African, look, bring your policemen, because it doesn't matter if an African policeman dies. You get? So to me, yes, let's stand with our brothers in Haiti, but let's consider all those factors that I've raised that are going to affect those policemen. That is my response.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me also get to hear from you, Ambassador.
Yes.
Because there's a very critical issue that is actually affecting Kenyans in one way or the other. It may be one is a police, or rather one is associated with policemen. But considering this particular approval that actually the parliament had actually approved, and of course we knew that it was going to be approved as we expected, is this really necessary for Kenya? What are the potential benefits that we are getting, and the challenges from where you see it?
Very well. I think it's a high time as a country we stop looking things from a political perspective and stop passing parliamentary decisions based on politics and which side of politics will be wrong. Because having been a diplomat, I would say that, first of all, to approach this Haiti issue, a place where we have no government, a place where we are seeing what we are seeing, the intents of war and everything, it is very, very necessary that if the president seriously and intentionally would like to address the issue, the situation in Haiti, he could have approached it from a diplomatic perspective. I remember His Excellency Mwai Kibaki, during his reign, we had almost a similar scenario in South Sudan. And how did the president address that issue? Very, very diplomatically. And today, we are talking of the latest or the youngest government of South Sudan. And that was historic. And with that, President Kibaki became a hero. Today, if President Ruto, no, let me say, if I was the head of state and government in Kenya, I would not send our police force. Number one, police don't go to war. It is the Kenya Defense Forces that go to war. So first of all, even the parliament itself has failed in that area. So let me come back to the diplomatic part of it, that all nations that are wishing well for our African brothers and sisters in Haiti, the best gift that we can give to Haiti is what we call a multilateral talk, or nations coming together to discuss the solutions or the possibility of birthing a government in Haiti. And this will be a very solid step towards global peace. So Kenya, we must, actually, for me, there is no need of sending the police. Because one thing, in Kenya, police don't go to war, our defense forces go to war. Number two, we are spending $241 million for the Haiti mission. Not that we are irresponsible in terms of global participation of such interventions, but we always say you cannot go to help others where you have not helped yourself. If the 241 million US dollars is injected into the Kenya's economy, and when we inject that money into the Kenya's economy, but on this side, on matters Haiti, we initiate diplomatic or multilateral talks towards peace in Haiti. We will have realized much more, and we will have been more diplomatic by employing talks or by trying and calling other nations. Like, look here, let's sit down. What can we be able to do for Haiti other than fueling the situation in Haiti by sending our forces? That in itself...
Ambassador, let me ask you.
Yes.
Do you think that Kenya was being compelled to actually send soldiers or rather the policemen to Haiti?
Nobody compels us. I think we are still, although I would say something that I've just remembered, that sometimes...
In a second, Kenya.
Yes, in a second, and I said it yesterday somewhere, that Kenya, we must run away from our house as a republic being governed by other forces. That do this so that I can do this. Even you, if your house, you bring somebody else, an external person to come and manage your house, it will not be manageable. Therefore, first of all, we must prioritize our interventions as a country.
So do you think, do you believe that there are external interventions?
Oh, yes.
Or those that are compelling Kenya so much to do that, and particularly on finances here?
Exactly. Yes, there are some external forces that are pushing us. Do this so that we can release this amount of money. And that is where we are losing. And that is where actually we fail as an internal government of a sovereign state. That is where our constitutionalism comes to an end. Because when you don't go according to your constitution that says Kenya is a sovereign state, when other countries are coming to interfere, where do our sovereignty, where does our sovereignty comes in? Because first of all,
well said, let me give Olenga a chance, a bit of a chance. So
you asked me, so I was responding. Just 1 minute, I finish. That the sovereignty of the country in these Haiti issues and other issues must be protected first before we give listening ear to other nations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Olenga, let me ask you this, because I was in another conversation, and what they described, what these people are describing when Kenyans, for example, or Africans are being compelled or pressured to do something for money, as you had said, they call it colonial philanthropy. So, but the question is, how will we end this colonial philanthropy? When we talk about still other forces from outside, external forces, compelling us to do things that we do not believe in. And like now, of course, I also, as you're getting to answer that, there's also something critical that she has mentioned about, and that is on the parliament. And she mentioned that parliament, even in approving this, was not right. But again, it will actually beg the question that, because Kithure Kindiki actually had highlighted the constitutional requirement for such things to happen. And it will beg the question, how important is the parliamentary approval for such international escapades, missions, let me call it so, and how does it contribute to our democracy generally? So, Olenga.
Let me start with your word of, you are calling it philanthropy, colonial philanthropy. Number one, my brother, there's no philanthropy that the West is giving Africa. Actually, we are losing $3.8 billion every year as Africa, as African continent, through what we call capital flight and a lot of tax evasion and a lot of unfair practices from the businesses that are being done by the West in Africa. While we are actually receiving only 820 million in terms of aid. Now, to come back to Kenya, President Ruto made his choice long time ago in terms of his foreign policy, just like his President Moi did in 1983, early 1980s, to choose structural adjustment program from IMF, that is then was retrenchment and reducing the size of the government. Today, the rule for IMF is different, and that's why President Ruto is running up and down, juggling things, and basically it's like somebody who is dying in water, so he's trying to hold on into anything that he can see. It's because he has certain stringent measures from IMF. When China was giving President Uhuru Kenyatta and President Mwai Kibaki loan, China does not give you loan with some political pressure or some political tied issues that you have to implement. IMF is different. When they give you loan, there are things you have to do. Now, this issue of Haiti is a failed response from the West. They created a problem in Haiti. They interfered in Haitian government, Haitian government, and once they created this problem, they could not solve it because of animosity of the public. US Coast Guard were not welcome in Haiti because Haitians believed that it's France and the US that created the problem. So they did not want to see them. So US is having what we call a clever maneuver, where they are saying, why don't we give African countries some small money so that now they can send their men to die on our behalf. That is what is being done. And there's no philanthropist there.
What does the West
There's
gain?
only suicide.
What does the West gain?
The West gain by having what we call stability in Haiti, which has been their gate point in terms of a lot of businesses in Asian Pacific region. You get the Arabian Peninsula and Asian Pacific region. That is their gateway in terms of movement of goods, troops, and a lot of things. You get. So now the country's unstable, or the government has failed in Haiti, they are under pressure to bring it back. How do you bring it back? They cannot send their own. Actually, they sent their own Coast Guard and failed to bring the order in the country. So they are trying to use African, because those are Africans. So it's like a PR kind of exercise, that if we send Africans, probably Haitians will welcome their fellow African, and we might succeed in what we created, in a mess that we created. That is the politics of Haiti. I don't want to lie to you.
How did Africans find themselves in Haiti? But
slave trade, my brother. Africans found themselves in Haiti because they were taken away as slaves. So they ended up in Haiti because it was a settlement program. To your second question, you ask a very critical question. What is the role of Parliament in approving such international mission? And I'll tell you, and I said it earlier when we met here. Remember, I even told you when they passed the tax law, I even explained to you that it was going to fail. And actually, the basic goods that they were taxing, people will stop buying them, people will stop driving, and that they'll receive less revenue. It's already happening, what I told you some 2 months ago. Now, what they have approved now is even going to be catastrophic. Reason being that the executive has hijacked the legislature. To be honest with you, in this country at this moment, there is no legislature. It is only the arm of executive that is passing law in Parliament. What do I mean? If Kenya want to choose the best members of Parliament or best men to go to Parliament, first let us streamline our what we call the election finances. We must know if somebody is vying for position to become a member of Parliament, where is the source of his money? We must limit the amount somebody should contribute towards their campaign, so that we can weed out corrupt men, thugs, and the wash men. Today in our Parliament, I can tell you for free, 60% of members of Parliament are people who are either busy with the conning games, the wash people who have tinted characters. They don't care about what you are talking about. They don't read even the document that is in front of them. What they do is that if the president say pass this thing, it's passed without even somebody knowing what is he or she is passing in Parliament. And that's the dangerous situation where we are in. Because if Parliament was sober enough, and I'm sorry, not that I disrespect all members of Parliament, they are great ones that are there. But if they were sober enough to know exactly what they were doing, then we should be having a question of what is our policemen going to do there? What is the scope of this mission? You get? Because now we are sending policemen to go maintain law and order that does not exist. The work of police worldwide is to maintain law and order. How do you maintain law and order in a country that has failed? Today, if Kenya was to fail, the first organization that will come in to bring order will be the military. Because that's what they are trained to do. If a country like US was to fail and was in a situation where it's a failed state, first there will be declaration of emergency. Second, there will be deployment of Coast Guard. These are military men who are trained to fight what we call a modern combat, to bring people into order, then that is when you follow up with the police to maintain the order that has already been created. In this situation, what is our policemen going to maintain? Because there's no law and order there. First, we need men who can fight. And I agree with my sisters, I finalize, diplomacy can also help. But how can you start a diplomacy in a mess that you do not understand? The reason why Kibaki succeeded both in Somali mission and in South Sudan, according to my sister, and I agree, is because we understand. These are our neighbors, we understand the politics, and we understand the end game. Do Kenya understand Haiti? No.
Thank you.
Though it is our African brothers and sisters, so we have to help them like we helped Sudan, but not sending our police. So it is a governance, actually, question.
Ambassador,
yes.
I want us to shift a bit of a conversation because we had a series of issues also to discuss apart from this. But thank you so much for your opinion on actually what we have discussed so far. But there's also one that is quite critical that has actually led Kenyans to mixed reactions. And that is on the issue of the government-to-government deal on the oil, which is actually on the energy sector, which we believe that has got implications on the energy sector. But the major question, even as we come to the conclusion of this conversation, is in whose interest is this issue at the center of the conflict? Because in whose interest is this conflict in? Is it the government? Do we have some people? We have had the former premier, that is Prime Minister Raila Odinga, asking that you have seen the woman, and of course even the mother was being seen on the media, and she seemed quite not a person or a mother to a billionaire. And Raila is asking a very critical question that does she look like a billionaire? Then she's doing the bidding on someone else. And the government is not telling us something. Whose interest? In whose interest
something
do we
is
have
not
this conflict?
right, something is not clear, something is very wrong, and corruption is very high, actually. And someone is not playing their role out there. I must say that the situation in the country right now about the oil is because we don't basically follow the procedures and systems that are very well laid down by our institutions of procurement. Because it is very clear that the oil, from the word go, we should have employed a competitive bidding process that could have actually given us oil according to the current global oil rates. But now you go to G2G. What do you think about it? Because when you go to G2G, there is a high possibility that you discuss your own rates for your own personal benefits. And I believe that this is what has happened. But a transparent procurement bidding system will give us the rates of oil as they are globally. And this is what we are seeing in Uganda. This is what we are seeing in Tanzania. But in Kenya, because of corruption, the deep-rooted corruption in our system, somebody wants to benefit from the oil sector. That is why they had to switch from the organized competitive bidding process to a G2G process. And that is why now, Kenya, here we are, because we say yes to everything. When it's a G2G, we say yes instead of questioning what are we going to benefit from G2G, and this is the level we are. So I would say that this woman, Anne, there must be somebody, there must be some cartels behind the whole of this process. And I said 2 days ago on another TV station, can the president come out clearly? Did we see him planting trees practically? Trying to show that he is very at the center of climate change mitigation. Can he come at the center of energy in the Republic of Kenya? Because energy is an economic driver. When we start going to G2G and running away from our very official competitive bidding, we are failing as an economy, and you are sending jitters that you as a president, you are not able to do things as they are. And that is why we are saying, Mama wa Taifa, the sixth government, I'm coming in because we have to form a very responsible, accountable government in the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you, Mama Taifa. Thank you, Mama Taifa. Thank you so much. It's a great conversation. Let me give Olanga a chance. Olanga, we've discussed a lot of issues, but even on this particular one, about Now, what is
Oil.
happening about what actually Raila, the discrepancies that Raila has talked about on the energy in the oil sector? Maybe you tell us what you think about them, even as you come to the end of this show.
Number one, I don't want to allude to fact that I actually know what script Raila Odinga is reading from. Raila Odinga has his own dossier. That is the one who can explain the source of that dossier and what actually is entailed. But I just want to make a general comment in terms of our policy, in terms of energy reserve in our country and acquisition of that energy. First, when President travels to Saudi Arabia to do what we call a G2G or government-to-government deal, first thing that comes into my mind is that in Middle East we have what we call an OPEC, which is a body that is a oil-producing body in Middle East. And Saudi Arabia does not do deals outside OPEC. Saudi Arabia does deal within the OPEC. So I don't know whether the president made a deal with OPEC or with Saudi Arabia. Because if it's Saudi Arabia, then that is false. Saudi Arabia does not deal directly with other government outside OPEC unless that change overnight. So that's something that the president needs to come out and clear the air on. Second, we've been given a lot of bad press, or what I can call cooked figures, on how the oil is increasing per barrel in Middle East, and that's why the oil prices are high in Kenya. But that's not the reality. Actually, for the past 2 weeks, the oil has been coming down. Kenyans need to know the truth why the oil are high and those who are benefiting from those oil prices. To say final word on the issue of energy is that we need, the country has reached into a level where we need a domestic intelligence to fight this organized crime. Because we have thugs in government. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Waringe. Esther Waringa, thank you so much for your time. And of course, Olianga, I'm looking forward to seeing when you're the 6th president, Olianga will be the running mate and probably the deputy
He's
president.
much welcome on board.
Thank
to
you
be
so
the
much
running mate.
for your time. And thank you so much for also tuning in on GBS TV Africa. Of course, every Friday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., we indulge in a conversation that is meant to make you understand issues as they are. We speak on different issues, current affairs, politics, economy, and much more issues that affect you one-on-one through different stakeholders that come here on board. My name is Eugene Ochieng Kwach, and of course we are so grateful for you coming again. On behalf of everyone who has made this happen, a success, we wish you a very good night.
Everywhere, GBS.